All right. Let's see. Let's check the audio really quick. Merry Christmas, everybody. All right. It's Christmas. We're still going to stay consistent today. So let's keep on working through this. So today we're looking at the fifth zip code of this area in Detroit. We're looking at 48234. And just for everybody that don't know where these zip codes came from, I have a podcast. It's called Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. And one of the guests that I had on my podcast was Stuart Hicks. Stu Hicks. He's going to be right here. I'm going to pull this guy up. He runs a Section 8 placement company, and he is very, very well versed with Detroit, all the different housing agencies that exist in Detroit. And he gave me these 5 zip codes. So definitely check out the podcast if you have not seen it before. But he goes through all the different items and all the zip codes in Detroit that he thought would be best for Section 8 investing. And these are the more desirable neighborhoods. Now, in Detroit, these areas are, these markets is still street by street. So you still got to do your research there. But these are the 5 zip codes that at least it is provided by someone that's local to the area and can provide you some pointed guidance on at least where to start looking so that you're not just looking blindly and guessing. So today we're looking at 48234. Here's some of the rents that he gave me from his experience, and the underwriting assumptions that we're going to use is 12% property management, 10% capex, and we're going to use 5% vacancy based on some of the numbers that he advised me on. All right. So when we go to 48234, I'm filtering for just 4 bedrooms today. You can see that downtown Detroit is going to be right in this area here. So this is a little bit more northeast. In the prior weeks, we've been looking at the northwest side. I visited Detroit earlier this year in April, and I was in the Ferndale, Royal Oak area. Those are pretty nice areas. So not all areas are bad in Detroit. So don't just fall into that misconception. We're watching, let's see a part. Cast on City of LA ED1 100%. Hey, Andrew, really appreciate you joining in today, man. I think my goal was to have one of the city planners from the city of Los Angeles on a podcast in January. So I'll keep you updated on when she will actually come on. But that's going to be a good one for us to kind of go through and just understand what they're doing in that area. But thanks for joining, man. So today we're looking at 48234. I just kind of picked apart this one little address right here, 48234. And what we're doing here is I found a property. I just quickly looked for one that was in seemingly decent shape. And what I was looking for was just like a property with a little bit more photos. This property is probably all set. I don't really see much that I need to do. Maybe you want to replace the carpet if you want to keep life a little bit easier for you. Maybe you want to replace the range hood right here with something better. I don't like that there's no here. There's only a window. It's not what I would like. So maybe I'll put that in there. Here's some more carpet in the living area. They closed out the fireplace. So that's good. Bathroom is fine. I might just put in like a different vanity so there's some storage there because that seems really inconvenient. Probably replace this one. You see that it's rusting over there. Some very cosmetic items, but things that I would like to do so that our unit will stand out a little bit better. This must be the shed or storage. I'm not sure if this is the basement, but it looks somewhat finished, but you would not count that as a bedroom. What you could possibly do was maybe just finish it up and then put in some laundry machines there. What I do is I kind of quickly look at, this must be a rehab dumpster. So that's good. It's good that people are flipping areas. What I'm doing right now is I do a quick street drive-by. And if you've ever been to Detroit, there are some areas where it looks like a bomb has gone on through a building, where I've literally seen buildings where it's like half demolished, half torn down. And what I'm doing right here, just looking at looking for some sort of life, some sort of activity. You don't want to see too many commercial buildings that are just boarded up with nothing near them. Okay, it's not bad. I'm just looking a quick gander. All right. So next thing we want to do is I go to tophap.com, tophap.com. When I go here, I figure out whether or not what my crime index score is. And when you go to plug your address there on tophap, tophap.com, you can get your crime index score. This is 134. It's Detroit. So I've seen this 120. I've seen as high as like the highest I've ever seen was 160. Definitely not staying in there, but 130. It's probably what you expect. But again, it's street by street in this area in Detroit. So you just want to make sure that you have someone that's really going to be able to give you the down and dirty on what's going on. So here it is. This is a duplex. So one of them is a 2-bedroom and the other is a 4-bedroom. So what I want to do today is I want to get the FMR. So when you Google HUD FMR, HUD space FMR, you're able to go to the small area FMRs. When you go up to the small area FMR, you can go to, let's go to Michigan. This is in Detroit, so it should be Wayne County. You can double check that just simply by just doing a control find on Redfin, and you see that it's Wayne County right there. I like that UI. I like the Redfin UI a little bit better than Zillow, so it's just easy to search for and have everything on one page. All right, so 48234. Now you're able to go to by zip code, by bedroom count, what the ceiling rents are, quote unquote. So you can see right here, 1140. That is the fair market rents for a 2-bedroom home, 1140. And then you'll see that the 4-bedroom home is 1520. 1520. And this is in 48234. I'm just noting down these rents here on my other calculator. I'll share that with you all shortly. And then now I have these 2 rents, right? This is what I would interpret as the ceiling rents for this property. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the market rents. And I do that by going to affordablehousing.com, going to the owner section, going to the market rent estimator, and putting in the 2-bedroom rent. You can see right here that the market rent here, I'm focusing on this far right number. The market rent for this area is $886 dollars for 25 units within a 1.22 mile radius. And this is what I would call your attention to. You see, when you compare the 886 on the far right, and you compare the 886 to the FMR on HUD's website, 1140, I am going to underwrite this property at probably around 900 because here's the thing. There's a test. It's called the rent reasonableness test. What is the name of the site you use for crime? Steve, I am using tophap.com, tophap.com, tophap.com. Once you go there, you can go to the neighborhood section. And once you scroll down, you're going to be able to see the crime index score on the left-hand side. Let me see if I can not share just a window. Let me share an entire screen with you so you can see it a little bit better. And once you get to tophap.com, let me put it into the center because sometimes it's hard to see on Instagram. For those of you that are watching on Instagram, you want to see the full screen version, you can go to youtube.com/@Kent_HG and just subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can be notified whenever I go live. So once you come in here, you can go to type in the address, and then you scroll to the right. There's a section called neighborhood section. And then this is where you get the crime index score. I live in an area where it's about like 85, 90 crime index score. So that's what I use personally as my, as my benchmark for this crime score. Okay. So as I get this crime score, I'm comparing this again to the FMR, the fair market rents of 1140. When I compare that to 886, right? 886 is lower, and that's market rent. Typically, your housing authority will do a test. It's called the rent reasonableness test, which means that just because you are renting out to a voucher holder, which is now called a housing choice voucher, formerly known as the Section 8 voucher, because you're renting out to a housing choice voucher does not mean you can charge more rent than what the market determines to be fair in that area. Okay. So that's why 886 is the rent that I'll probably use just to be conservative. Could it be higher? Yeah. If you look at what Stu recommended to me was 950. I'm probably going to underwrite at 900, 950, just see what my rents are. And then I'm going to get the rents for the 4 bedrooms. All right. I'm also going to note these numbers down. So let me just write them down in front of you. 1209 is the rent for 25 units within a 1.4 mile radius. So I'm going to write all these numbers down. 1 second. So you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. And the reason I'm doing this and I'm noting down all these files is because my partners know how I underwrite. And when I put these numbers in here, they already know that I've already done my research, right? So the whole point of this is I hope all of you are able to copy what I'm doing, and you can even analyze the same properties I'm doing every single day. You can also DM me on Instagram with your email, and I'll send you this calculator afterwards. I've been very fortunate to have been given this calculator by other folks, and I've been able to modify this spreadsheet to meet what I need. But most importantly, sometimes everyone just wonders what the first step is. And sometimes it's very hard to think of that on your own. Well, one step my suggest is, well, just copy what I'm doing. Analyze the same deal, analyze the same deal using the same spreadsheet, and put it on your own YouTube channel. That's what I'm suggesting. Put it on your own YouTube channel so that you can have a undeniable track record of analyzing all these deals every single day, so that when your partner approaches you and says, hey, why do you think this is a deal? Well, you can refer them to your YouTube channel at that point in time. You can even keep it unlisted if you're really shy, and say, well, I know this is a deal because I've looked at the past 100 deals and they were all not deals, right? Well, then that also gives you confidence that you know what you're doing. Because when I started, I was so scared. I really was. I was so scared because I thought, what if I lost all my money? And the only way you can get over analysis paralysis is by showing yourself that you've been doing the work, you've been analyzing deals every single day, so that you can get over that little hump, so that you can give yourself the confidence that you know what you're doing yourself. All right. So let's plug in the details right here. So $177,000. I am going to plug in my rehab. So I have a line item by line item estimate for the rehab. I'm going to leave aside $1,500 for the roof, just in case there's something going on. I'm going to set aside $500 to do some cleanup of the outside while I'm doing some rehabs. And let's see, for this property, do I see 6 bedrooms? One, is that, no, it's a living room. 1, 2, 3. It's a living room. I'll probably replace the carpet there. I need 1 bathroom vanity. Okay, let me plug in these vanities. So I'm going to just set aside half, so equals 2196 divided by 2. Here's why I'm still setting aside some money to paint. When I met some folks in Detroit, it's actually very common, believe it or not, that people break into homes and they squat there. Some people really know how to game the system. And if you ever get stuck in those situations where people are able to sneak in, break into the home, this is why you also see some homes that are boarded up in Detroit, because they're preventing folks, or looking to prevent folks, from breaking into the home and squatting there, because it takes a while to get them out. So I'm always going to set aside some money for the painting, just in case they come in and trash in place. Because if there's anything you can bet on in real estate, it's that you can bet on something going wrong in real estate. So there's some carpet in here. So I'm going to assume that half the home needs new flooring, because I really would prefer not to keep carpet in this area if I don't need to. And I'm just putting $8 a square foot for now for my estimate. Kitchen, I don't need to do anything with the kitchen. I do want a new range hood and a range oven. So I'm going to plug that in right there. $1,200 for the range, $5 for the hood. Might actually be more, actually, if there isn't any ventilation there, but I'm just going to leave that for now. For the bathroom, I definitely want a new vanity cabinet. How many bathrooms did I see in here? Let's see. That already has a cabinet. Okay, so we're good. So I only need 1 vanity countertop, 1 vanity mirror to replace that. I want a new sink. I want high pressure flush toilets for each unit, so I decrease the chances that I need to send a plumber out there for clogged toilets. That's just my personal preference, right? It doesn't need to be like that. And I'm assuming the water heater is working, so I'm going to leave that blank unless I find something in inspection. And I'm going to set aside $1,000 for some termites. I might just put in some money for the water heater just in case. I like to be super conservative in my renovations. That's just my style. You don't have to follow that, obviously. So that's $25,000 of rehab right there. Just kind of set that aside. All right. So when I plug my rents together, a 2-bedroom is 886, and my 4-bedroom is 1209 equals 886 plus 1209. I'm just using the market rents. I'm being very conservative right here. Okay. Now, my property taxes, I got that 138 from this number right here in Redfin. That's just my estimate. And what I did was I took the homeowner insurance was $77 and I multiplied it by extra 30% because typically this insurance number usually assumes that someone's living there as a prime residence, but this is an investment property. So I like to put a little bit of a premium on top of the insurance number. Okay. Now, when I do this results in that piece. I got a 10% maintenance on this property. I got 12% for property manager. I got 5% for vacancy. Okay, cool. Is this a deal? Let's see. Right now, I got to put in 25% down. Boom. And then I'm going to put in 8.5% interest rate. And my loan is going to be the asking price, subtract the down payment. So I'm going to get a loan for, let's see, 12, 25, 23. I'm going to get a loan for $132,000 to buy this property at 177. It's going to be using 8.5% interest rate, just what my assumptions are right now. Might be lower, might be higher, but that's okay. And for me right now, assuming a 2.5% closing cost on this deal with no other items here, this would result in a 4.4% cash and cash return. So let's talk through this, guys. So if I assume my gross rent is $2,095, what are my scenarios? I'm going to assume that I'm going to cash flow $271. Let's go through some scenarios together. All right, guys. My cash and cash return is 4.4. My purchase price that for this scenario is $177,000. My rehab is, I'm just going to use easy round numbers, 25 grand. My loan is assuming a 25% down and 8.5% interest rate. All right, cool. The next thing I want to do is, well, what do I need to change my purchase price to in order to make this a deal? All right. So this was a scenario that I went through my head, and I'm going to just go through all these different variables for you to see. For every single property, there is a number that makes it a deal, right? So in this scenario, let's change the purchase price. What do I need to do to make this a 17% cash and cash return? What if I made this a 100 grand property? Oh, okay, there we go. Pretty close. There we go. If I bought this property for $95,000, right, and my rent assumption stays the same, my cash flow for this property would be $743, and this would be a 17.5 cash and cash return. Cool. Now I know that, hey, if I assume that it's a $25,000 rehab using a 25% down and 8.5% interest rate, my total entry on this property will be 50 grand because you add the down payment and the renovations. This would make it a deal if I got it for 95 grand. Cool. All right. Next thing I want to do is, well, what if I got a little bit higher rent? What if I went to Stu and I said, hey, how much do you think I can get for this? Well, he's going to be $950 and $1,400. All right. Well, what if my rent was a little bit higher? And I was underestimating my rents equals $950 plus $1,200. I mean, $1,400, excuse me. $950 plus $1,400, because that's what he told me what the floor rents are. And at $2,350, what would I be willing to pay for the property now to still yield a 17% return? Let's go to 120. Okay, 115. There you go. So I would be willing, if for some reason I talk to Stu and say, hey, do you think I can get $950 for the 2 and $1,400 for 4? And he says, yes, great. So now I can get $2,350. Now I'm willing to pay a little bit more. So I can cash flow $814 on this deal, and I will make a 17.3% cash on cash return if I offer $115,000. Okay, makes sense? All right. What else can I do next? What if I was grossly overestimating the rehab and this property only needed about $11,000 of rehab? Well, let me divide this by 2. Let's assume my rent stayed the same at $2,350. Let's kind of make these scenarios a little bit super straightforward. Now, what am I willing to pay? 125, 130, 135. See what just happened there? Because If I adjusted my rehab to 12,500 using round numbers here again, I will be cash flowing 699. This will still be a 16.9% cash on cash return, but now I'm willing to pay an extra $20,000. See what happened there? When I adjusted my numbers, meaning, hey, is this property worth my time? If I would send someone out there and they're like, oh yeah, this is a $12,000 rehab, that should be pretty straightforward. And now all of a sudden I'm willing to pay 135 instead of the 115. So this way you don't lose out, quote unquote, on that deal, simply because you're able to figure out what makes this a deal. All right. And this was still assuming a 25% down, 8.5% interest rate. All right. One more step I'll go through with you is, what if there is a creative finance option? Meaning, if I'm able to get this property on a subject to agreement, which means I'm taking over the loan subject to the existing financing, what am I willing to offer if the seller is content or fixed on getting the $177,000 purchase price on this deal? Okay. How do we do that? The first thing we need to do is we need to go to propstream.com and we need to see whether or not there is an underlying loan in place. So we're going to go to PropStream and we're going to plug in this address, 19351 Cliff Street. Let's plug that in to PropStream in Detroit. Once you're here, once you pull up the property, you can click on this button. It's called a details button. If there is the underlying loan, that would typically be in the section called mortgage. Okay, let's see. Awesome. There is a property loan that's in place. There is a loan that is for $91,875 at a 7.08%. So slightly lower than the 8.5, so it doesn't hurt, but let's kind of plug this in. So 12/1, what was the date? 2022, because that expires 2052 maturity date. So let's do that. 7.08. So I'm going to assume this is a 7.125% interest rate. And I'm going to assume that the principal amount was $91,875. Okay. So what does this mean? I'm giving a 25% down, taking over the loan balance of $91,875. Let me go back to $177 for the price that the seller wants. Well, what if the seller really wants that price? Okay, well, at $177, what am I willing to do to make this a deal? Okay, let's go back to this. Let's go back to our original assumptions, keeping all the scenarios fixed, and I'm going back to 2095 for my rent. All right, 2095. And I'm getting this property at $177,000. Let's keep these scenarios fixed now, right? We're taking over the loan subject to, but what is the seller finance portion? Because if you're paying 25% down, you're taking a loan for $91,000, there is still an equity portion that you need to get the seller to finance to you. All right. So in order to figure out what the seller's equity number is, you take the purchase price minus the down payment and minus the existing loan balance in place, and that's how you get the seller equity portion. Okay. All right. So we need to get this number to 17%. So let's play around with the numbers right now. So what if I got only paid a 15% down, or 10% down, or 5% down? Whoops. 1 second. What if I paid 5% down and I had the seller finance the rest at 0% interest rate? This is still not a deal. Here's why. Right now, I got the seller financing it at $76,000. It might be a deal for you, but a deal for me, because I really typically go for 17%. But this might be close enough, right? It might make you get a little bit interested. So here's what we got to do. So if you get a 5% down, and now you have a 0% seller finance deal for the equity portion, this would cash flow you 14.5% cash on cash return and cash flow you $460 a month. Is that a deal for you? It might be a deal for you, but it's not a deal for me personally. And that's okay. This might be a deal for you if your cash on cash return is 15% or 14% or maybe 10%. That might be a deal for you. It's just not for me. But let's keep going through what other scenarios might work. What if I got this deal for $150,000? Okay, now I can give you a 1% interest. So this would still work. If the seller was like, hey, how about I buy this property for $150,000? I'll take over the loan existing subject to, which means that my rehab is still $25,000. My down payment is still 5%, but now I'm able to give a 1% interest rate on this deal. 2095 460, and now this is a 16.9% return. Okay. One more scenario, I'll go through it. What if my rent was really $23.50, right? Because we talked about the gross rent assumptions earlier, which was $950 plus 4 equals, I'm gonna do this out for you. $950 plus $1,400. All right, that's how I got $23.50. So if I go back to $177,000, so let's write down these scenarios, right? $23.50, right? Let's stay consistent here. And I bought this property for $177,000. My rehab was still 25 grand. My seller interest rate, let's see, what can I do here? Can I give it 10% down? 0% interest rate? There you go. This deal will still work. So if my rental assumptions was too low, okay, if my rental assumption was too low and I'm able to give them a 10% down payment, now all of a sudden I'm still getting a principal loan only term deal, which means it's 0% interest rate. At $23.50, I can still get them $177, but now this would be a deal for me, right? All I'm trying to show here is for every single deal, there is a set of terms and the numbers that makes this a deal. So this is now 17.1% return. So I would be willing, if for some reason I figured out, hey, I can get $23.50 for rents here, and this is a 17% return, I can give $177 to the seller if they let me take over the existing loan sub 2. Even though it's a 7%, I'll still take it over sub 2. But the seller financed their equity portion of 67 grand to me, and I can give them a 10-year balloon, whatever it is. But it has to be principal only payments every single year. Okay. Well, here's another thing. What if my rehab was actually halved? Okay. Oh, we're going deep today. Merry Christmas, everybody. We're going deep. We're going through a lot of scenarios today, but I wanted to really give you guys a ton of value today for Christmas. This is how we spend our time. This is how we get better at analyzing deals. So at $23.50, what would I be able to make or offer in terms of terms if my rehab was overestimated and my rehab was really $12,500? Okay. What can I do now? Well, if I gave 15%, 20%, okay, I can give a 17.5% return down payment, and this would still be a deal. So if my rehab was half of what it was, and I would still be able to give a 17.5% down payment to the seller, and I will still cash flow $700 a month, and this would still be a 17.8% cash on cash return. And that's how you can present it to the seller. Let's do last one. Let's keep it at 12,500 for the rehab. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the down payment. What if I gave only a 10% down payment? This is now a 23% return, but how much interest can I give to the seller? Okay. What if I'm able to give a 2.5%? How about 3.5%? How about 5%? There you go. Here's what you can do. So now I can say, hey, Miss Seller or Mr. Seller, I'll give you the 177 if you can give me the terms that I want. I can give you a 10% down, right? And then, thanks, Nana. I really appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you too. We're staying consistent together. It's not just me. We're doing it. You're tuning in, so we're all doing this together. 10% down. What am I doing? I can give them a 5% interest rate now. So you can ask the seller, hey, what are you going to do with your money? Why not just lend it to me? All right, at a 5% interest rate with a 10-year balloon, here's what you got to tell them. If you go to the loan calculator, you can just sum up the interest column for the first 120 payments. Here's how much the seller is going to make. The seller is going to make $30,850 in interest over the first 10 years. $30,850. So if you learn how to present it to the seller correctly, you will say, hey, you're not getting offers 177. All right. Well, how about I give you a 10% down? You let me take over the existing loan sub 2, that loan balance of $91,000 at 7.125% interest rate, but you just got to finance the rest of it to me at 5% interest rate. And Miss Seller or Mr. Seller, well, if I do this, this is how much you're really walking away from. Not only going to walk away from $177,000 on the purchase price, but over the course of 10 years, you will also make another $30,000 of interest because of how the amortization schedule works, right? So in these scenarios, how many scenarios have we just gone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We just went through 8 scenarios of what would make this deal a deal. And you guys can go about it any way you like. But that is one way that you can go through all the different scenarios on how do you actually make it a deal. And this just comes from practice. Sean, Brandon, Elias, Brandon, man, thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate all of you guys tuning on YouTube and listening alongside this. This is super fun for me, and there's no other way I want to spend Christmas except hang out with community members and analyze deals together. I'm gonna spend some time with my daughter right afterwards, but this is super cool, and I'm hoping this is super helpful for all of you. If you guys want a copy of the spreadsheet for this deal today, just make sure you DM me your email at investwithkenthe on Instagram, and I can send this spreadsheet to all of you. I hope. Let me stop sharing my screen. I hope you all are able to spend some quality time with your family, your friends today, however you want to celebrate Christmas. It's just so cool to be hanging out with all of you and analyzing deals together. Again, I was so scared when I started in real estate. I was so scared of making the wrong deals, wrong analysis. I wasn't confident in myself. And we always have this thing called imposter syndrome, right? Like, hey, who do I think I am to be able to analyze these deals together? And once I gave myself that freedom of wanting to simply help, wanting to simply ask questions on behalf of the audience, such as yourself, that gave me so much freedom. And I can't tell you how freeing that is, because it took all the pressure off of myself. And I never claimed to be an expert about affordable housing. I just truly, truly care about it. And if you're spending any time with your family today and you're still looking for your passion, or still looking for your objective, still looking for your mission, I honestly would recommend, if you have time today, go interview your parents, your mom, your dad, your brothers, your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, grandparents if they're still around, great grandparents if they're still around. Because that story, I bet your passion is already embedded in their stories. I was so moved when I interviewed my grandma about a month ago, a little bit after Thanksgiving, for her birthday. She just turned 94. And I found out so many things from her that I never even knew or even thought. And here's the question I used to start to interview. I asked, hey, Grandma, did you ever have any televisions when you were growing up? And that was such a good leading question that allowed her to start diving deeper into her memory and picking apart the memories to bring forth to me. And I found out when she was 8, her mom passed, and she started working as a servant at other people's homes for no money. They just took around all the chores, they cooked, they took care of the kids. There's no pay. You just do it for shelter and food. Her second job, also no pay, but she worked at a hotel all day and all night. And she also only worked for shelter and food. Not even shelter. She just worked for food. She worked from all day, from the morning to night. And she would go back to an abandoned home where she shared a home with about 3 other girls, and they split all the chores. This was in China. There was no pay. Her first paying job, she was lugging luggage from the train station to the hotel because she was in proximity of work. But each way was about like 3 hours each way, and you're carrying luggage from one side of the land to another, because there weren't Ubers back then. And that was her first paying job. And by that time, she lost all connections with her sisters, she lost connection with her sister. Like her sister and her brother, they separated, and because there weren't cell phones back then, she never saw her sister again. And I think that is such a great reminder right now of what we have right now in front of us. Being able to connect with our families with just a phone call and FaceTime, we should never take that for granted. And when she came over to America at the request of my mom to help babysit myself and my brother when we were young, she did not want to come over because she never went to school. She never learned to read. She came over to America and babysat us. And she told me the story of how she used to drop my brother and I off at school. And then after she drops us off, she will walk up about 10 minutes to the public garden in Boston and just sit on a bench and cry because she was so lonely. How much sacrifice is that? How much sacrifices have our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors have done for us? Without that home I grew up in, She would have never had a landing spot when she came over from the States. Without that affordable housing rental, I would have never been the person I am today. And now she's in a senior living home, living out her days. But what if she didn't have a senior living home? She would never be just one street across from my mom right now, where they're able to still spend time together at ease, at convenience. And that's what we can do with affordable housing. Whatever you want to do, I think affordable housing is a flexible investment because you get to choose who you want to help. It's a safer investment, and this is not investment advice, but it's a safer investment because even during COVID, all the affordable housing landlords still got paid their rents. The government's going to pay the rent on time every single month. So you guys get to help whoever you want to help. And I hope you guys take this holiday as a time to reflect, but more importantly, find what niche you want to really zone in on. If you want to help immigrants, women domestic abuse, children aging out of the foster system, veterans, disabled folks, doesn't matter who it is, you have the choice now to help whoever you wanted to do. And I think this would be a great time for you to reflect and really think about who do you want to help and how do you want to help them. Don't be generic. Don't just say I want to help people, because I used to say that. I just want to help all the people in the world. It's not specific enough. Once you get specific enough, that's when you're going to get that clarity. That's when you're going to get that mindset to continue blowing through. Because if there's anything you can expect in real estate, it's that you can expect something to go wrong in real estate. That's a guarantee. Because problems will come up. And the only thing to keep you plowing through those obstacles is that you have a reason why. And I hope you can get that reason why by talking to your family, recording an interview, because the time with your family and friends are not guaranteed. It's never guaranteed. So record that video now, because you never know if your parents might pass before you ever have kids or grandkids. Their stories need to be told. And it will be a shame for your kids or grandkids and great-grandkids to never know the story. So don't take the time for granted. I have found, for those of you that know the story, if I never interviewed my mom and my dad, I would have never found out they lived in a 2-bedroom home with 9 people when they first came to America and lived in Chinatown in Boston. I would have never found out that they had $5,000 of cash out, that they were getting ready to bring that home to the relatives, repay some of their relatives. My dad worked 10 years in construction, and he made the equivalent of $10 US a month. So to get $1,000 from a sibling back then was a huge, huge deal. $1,000 back then, that's almost 100 months of labor, assuming he saved every single dollar. And I would never found out that they got robbed and lost everything in one night, and how heartbreaking it was. And the resilience and the courage I saw in my parents, because they had hope, that hope that came from being on a wait list for affordable housing, that's what kept her going. So that's why I'm on this mission now, and I hope all of you would join me on this mission to create the largest affordable housing investment community in the United States. Because I think every single person I put into one of these homes is helping someone just like my mom. And I can't imagine what life would have been had no one helped my parents. What if that building never got built? Man, that would be sad. And I know we all love our parents. We all love our family so much. Just imagine if no one helped them at that point in time, when they're so low, when they're so scared, when they came over from another country and they didn't know the language and they didn't know any English. This is how we make a difference. Affordable housing is my passion, and I hope it becomes yours too. Thank you so much for the time today. Andrew, is it more likely that rehab was underestimated? Yeah, usually people underestimate the rehab because they always expect everything to go correctly. My first project, I kid you not, everybody, my first project, my first rehab in Scottsdale, Arizona, we went double our budget. We went from a 60 grand, 63 grand. We spent all in $126,000. Imagine how scary that was. But that was a big mistake I made. So now I'm overestimating on rehab, because for me personally, if I believe that I'm being super conservative and I still find a deal, that gives me way, way more confidence that I'm spotting a deal. And it's okay. It's okay if someone ever jumps on it. but it gives you some validation. And even if you lose out on a deal, that's okay. There's going to be another one. But when you lose out on a deal and someone else buys it, well, that's great confirmation that you knew what you were doing. Maybe you just didn't offer Steven a discount. That's okay. Maybe that's your own criteria. And if you can determine your own criteria, please stick with it. So thank you so much for spending the time with me, everybody. This is Christmas. I hope you all spend some quality time with your family, your friends today. This is such an important day and an important time of the year to just reflect and also get ready for the next year. I'm still laser focused on next year. I feel so much positive momentum because I get to hang out with my friends. I get to hang out with the community members, just like all of you. And we're going to underwrite deals. We're going to get better every day together. That's it. I hope all of you will look at the way I underwrite and do it better. That's honestly what I hope, because the next generation is supposed to be better at this. I realize that our battle right now with the Affordable Housing Podcast is to dispel the myth that all affordable housing residents and tenants are just guns and drugs and drama, when in reality it's just folks just like our parents that didn't know English, that needed a solid launching pad to provide a good roof over their heads and provide a safe home for the kids to grow up in, so that their kids can have the option to grow up. So many people have asked and brought up the statements like, why can't she do this? Why couldn't she go learn English? And man, if I told you, my mom worked 12 hours. She worked a night shift. My dad worked 12-hour day. They would alternate shifts, and they never got to enjoy really any time with us. This is why it's so sweet when they get to spend time with my daughter right now. They get to actually enjoy the time with their granddaughter. But when she learned, she went to English school at night. And one night when she was going to English school, she got jumped. She got jumped leaving English school because it was nighttime, and she never wanted to go back to English school again at nighttime because it was so scary when you're in a different country and when you are feeling lonely and you're doing everything you can to put food on the table, care for your kids, and learn another language. Man, those odds are stacked against so many people in this world. And if we can help ease the expense of the largest living expenses for most people, which is housing, that gives them so much more freedom, so many more options to help other folks and pay it forward. And they put all their hopes and dreams, especially for many immigrant families. I won't speak for every family, but I know that's what happened for my mom. She put all her hopes and dreams and loved us unconditionally to give us the best options, to give us the best opportunities to thrive. And those are the choices that we get to make for our family and friends. I'll end today by sharing one more thing. I think it's very important for all of us to know what we want. And when I finally decided, like, this is what I wanted, it freed me so much. All I want is to bring a single mom and her 2 kids. They don't have much. Maybe they just got like 2 bags of clothes, but they step into this brand new apartment that we built. It's ground up. They walk through the doors. They see how beautiful it is. They see the nice finishes. They see the bright light in the apartment. The mom just gets a little teary-eyed. She looks at me, she smiles, and she gives me a hug, and she says, "Thank you." That to me is worth more than any amount of money in the world. That is so fulfilling. That's what I want. I just want that simple thank you. And once I got cleared on what I wanted, it made me so much more laser focused, because I've heard from plenty of folks that have become very, very wealthy, and they get depressed. They're in this big house, they're sitting in their pool, they're looking up to the world, and they're like, "Wow, what's next?" Well, I don't want that. I want to be super clear about what I want. That thank you, that ability to make a difference in someone's life is so, so, so much more important. It's so much more valuable than any amount of dollar that you can ever make. But the thing is, in affordable housing, you can make money and help people at the same time. And this is why I love this. So this is not a solicitation for any investments. This is not investment advice. This is not financial advice, not insurance advice. Just thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for caring about affordable housing, because without people like yourselves, I would never have the home I grew up in. So thank you so much, everybody. Merry Christmas. Spend some quality time with your friends, your family, and your loved ones. I'll be back here tomorrow again. We're going to stay consistent together. Let's keep analyzing deals together. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you for letting me talk out loud today. I really appreciate it. But it was a great day of reflection.